Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lipstick Chat with Ebony Fox. Please don't forget to like and subscribe at the end of this video. In our previous episode, I mentioned a few situations that create dangerous environments for anyone dealing with a narcissist. I talked about how the narcissist minimizes these incidents and acts completely unconcerned about anyone's well-being or even his own. Today, we're peeling back another layer. We're diving into the many faces of a narcissist. So take a breath and enter the foxhole with me. The loving husband mask. Let's start with my birthday. Wow, this man went all out. He planned a surprise birthday party at a beautiful restaurant, and yes, he genuinely surprised me. The place was filled with people, mostly his friends, but a few of mine too. I mentioned that for another reason, which we will delve into later. We sat down for this wonderfully planned meal, and I noticed several empty chairs at the front of my table. I kept inviting people to move up so we could all sit together, but they made excuses and stayed put. That was strange. Maybe about 15 minutes later, who comes through the door? My brother, my mother, and my aunt. I got teary-eyed. He had flown them in first class just for my birthday. In that moment, he was the most wonderful man on earth. I had the best birthday, surrounded by the people I loved. That was the loving husband mask. The controller manipulator mask. Okay, now, let's fast forward. I usually washed most of the clothes in the house, so I decided and wanted a new washer and dryer. I thought I would buy myself a set for Mother's Day. I prefer an LG because it's what I'm familiar with. I've had it before and I found it to be very reliable, and I like the bells and whistles that went along with it. This was when he said, "We only buy GE products in this home." That rubbed me the wrong way, especially since I was the only one paying. But trying to keep the peace, I settled on a navy blue GE set that I actually really liked. One feature I loved about this washer and dryer was a detergent dispenser that automatically weighed the clothes and dispensed the perfect amount of liquid detergent. Everything was great until he came home with a huge box of Tide washing powder. I told him I prefer liquid because powder sometimes doesn't dissolve and it stays on the clothes. He said someone gave him the powder. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll make the best of it. About a month later, another box appeared. Well, now I was suspicious. When I asked again about Tide powder, he finally admitted he wanted his clothes washed with powder, despite the fact that he never washed anything himself. Later, I learned that this was a habit, this was a tradition for him, and this is all he'd ever used, and this is what he trusted. But as I said, he wasn't the one washing clothes. That was the controlling manipulator mask. Because he could have just said in the very beginning, a year or two before, that he preferred powder, because I had been using liquid all that time. The clout chaser mask. Sundays, as per our ritual, after church, we always went to a little diner that he'd been going to for years. The owner knew him very well and always would compliment my outfits that I would wear to church. This particular Sunday, I wore all red, dress, heels, purse, the whole look. Man, she loved it. She turned to him and said, "She always looks so good. You must spend a lot of money on her wardrobe." And he said, "Well, yes, that's how we do it." I looked at her, and before I could stop myself, I said, "He doesn't buy my clothes. I purchase everything that I have, everything that you see, I buy myself. Her mouth dropped open. He looked down at the floor. There were plenty of times we shopped together, sure, but he only shopped for himself. He never even asked if I wanted anything or needed anything. This was the clout chaser mask. The cheater's mask. Now let's talk about travel. He loved to travel. And there were times that, he preferred to travel alone, as did I on occasion. But he would travel alone to visit family, wouldn't even take me, or even ask me after a while. High alert, I know. He would visit his nephew, and I saw him once, and he saw me, but we were never introduced to one another. That's pretty interesting, don't you think? Whenever it was time to go to the airport, I'd offer to drive him. Traffic was crazy at the airport, so it made sense that somebody would want to be taken and dropped off and come back and picked up so they didn't have to deal with the whole parking situation, etc., etc. Well, eventually I figured those were opportunities for conversations with other people or potentially meeting other people at the airport, because he preferred to have me drive him to the train station and he catch the train and ride the train for an hour versus being taken to the airport in 30 minutes. And then he catch the train back home. And of course, I assume that he didn't think I suspected anything because I never accused him of anything. I didn't have any proof, so how could I accuse him? Yet. Then came that moment. He took one of his spur of the moment trips. You know how he would tell me like 2 days before he was going to take a trip that he was headed out somewhere. This particular time, he left his brand new AirPad at home. I'm a Mac girl. Everything I have is a Mac. From an iPad to my desktop to my phone. So I know how it all works. I know everything can be seen on every device. So on this particular trip, he left his iPad Air at home and he left it on. Ding, ding. He was getting plenty of messages on that iPad Air, and I was around it in the office and I was hearing it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to look at it. Oh, yeah. I read every message that popped up on it. I looked at every phone number and I ran reverse lookups. Bingo. He was cheating. He wasn't just cheating with one person. There was multiple people. There were other signs too. Forgetting to wear his wedding ring. Say he'd go in the bathroom or in the kitchen and wash his hands, and he said, "Oh, I just forgot to put it back on." Meanwhile, he had never forgotten to wear his ring the previous couple of years. But okay, we're gonna roll with that. Yeah. One time he told me that he didn't even tell me. Matter of fact, he said he had gone home for a wedding, but he told me this after he came back. He never mentioned it to me, never invited me, never said anything to me about it. I just logged this in the back of my mind. I also observed him sitting in his Jeep. One day he was cutting the grass outside and I heard the lawnmower stop, and I was standing in the front foyer looking out the window, and I watched him sitting on the driver's side of the Jeep deleting text messages. Yeah, that's how close I was. I mean, if I had a pair of binoculars, I probably could have read the text messages also. You may not remember from the first episode, but he had accused me of hiding text messages on my phone. And when he took my phone from me, he wanted to go through my text messages to see if anybody was texting me. So I kind of understand why he was projecting that behavior on me, because it was exactly what he was doing. The classic narcissist move, the projection mask. Projection is when they accuse you of what they're doing. Typically, whatever they say about you that you know is not true is absolutely what they're doing to you. They sabotage the relationship while keeping backup energy sources lined up, meaning, they always keep their options available. I never confronted him. He would have denied it anyway. But the truth helped me make my decision. I remember us going to that party and me asking him point blank while he was driving if he was cheating. And I remember he had that 5-second hesitation before he said no. And of course, he asked me, why did I ask? Well, it's because I knew. At that time, I knew. That was the cheater's mask. And then we have the avoidant. Have you ever asked somebody a question? They're looking at you, they hear the question, but they don't say anything. Then they start watching TV or doing something random, and then you say, excuse me, but I asked you a question about such and such, and you never gave me an answer. And they give you a blank stare, but say nothing. That silent, dismissive behavior, or they're not talking to you at that moment, and then they come back in an hour or two later and they're laughing and joking and wanting to talk to you and play around with you. Or they're acting loving today, and then the next day they have nothing to say to you and have nothing to do with you. That's the avoidant mask. There are other masks I witnessed. There's a self-esteem mask, sensitive to criticism, quick to anger. And that's when you probably will receive the silent treatment. There's the boundary violation mask, not even realizing you have boundaries. Things you don't like that are done. Times when they're 1 inch from your nose. They frequently ignore emotional or physical boundaries. The superiority mask. Oh, that's the one where they look down on others. They inflate their own importance and they look at others as if they're better than them. The excessive admiration mask. Oh, craves praise and wants attention like oxygen. When you don't praise them, guess what? They go get that from someone else. Not all masks appear in every narcissist. They vary in intensity and frequency, also in presentation. And trust me, there are 4 or 5 recognized types of narcissists, which we will cover in another episode. I talk to you about these faces because so often women, and perhaps men, I'm not sure, but I know women, we often try to overlook discrepancies, disparities. We come up with reasons why that person may not feel that way this time, but they felt that way before. Or they didn't do it this time, but they did it before. Please pay attention to discrepancies. Pay attention to changes. Don't just blow it off. Just know that you never know what face a narcissist is wearing unless you're paying attention. We will soon talk about the types of narcissists in the next episode of Lipstick Chat with Ebony Fox.